Right, and we continue to follow developments out of the Middle East, of course, where Israel launched a wave of airstrikes on Iran, targeting nuclear facilities, military commanders and scientists across the country. Now, Iran has called all of this a, quote, declaration of war, and right now is vowing to respond. And amid this major escalation, you got President Trump urging Tehran to make a deal on its nuclear program or face what he called even more brutal Israeli attacks. Let's bring in Eric Loeb now. He's an associate professor at Florida International University with expertise in Middle East studies and can help us understand the contours here. Great to have you with us. So Israel says this is not an attack on the Iranian people, but the regime running the country. Give us some context about that, and if that message really lands, considering the number of deaths reported here.
Well, yes, as reported, this is not just an attack against Iranian nuclear and military infrastructure and facilities, but also against Iranian personnel, top commanders, nuclear scientists, even the lead nuclear negotiator for Iran. And in the process, Israel has inflicted collateral damage and right now reporting dozens of Iranian civilians that have been killed and even hundreds injured. And as we speak, there have been rallies in Iran at universities and elsewhere calling for a strong Iranian response to these attacks and a rally around the flag effect. So we're seeing that, at least the images that are coming out of Iran, that people there are not necessarily differentiating between an attack on their government and on their military, but on the people themselves.
Our reporter in Jerusalem has described Iran's response thus far as muted. Do you agree with that? And if so, how might Iran choose to respond, considering there's this rally around the flag effect that you've described, more overtly or perhaps through their proxies in a more covert fashion?
Well, to speak quite frankly, Iran has never really been equipped to confront Israel and even the United States by extension directly in a conventional way. They crossed that threshold last April when they started direct drone and missile strikes against Israel, as well as in October. And even as the attacks were happening yesterday, they started, or even this morning, they were launching 100 drones at Israel, most of which appear to have been shot down. So at this point, we're going to have to wait and see what the next response is by Iran, whether it continues to do what it's done this past year with drones and missiles. It's hard to see it leaning heavily on its proxies that have been downgraded or degraded, I should say, by Israel and the United States in the past. The one proxy that it has is the Houthis in Yemen, but they can only inflict so much damage from that remote location against Israel and U.S. assets, and to see if they'll continue to disrupt commercial shipping in the Red Sea.
And all of this is happening ahead of what were meant to be continued discussions this weekend about Iran's nuclear program. Ironically, an attack like this does seem to explain why Iran wants a weapon like that, which would be a deterrent. But what does the future hold for Iran, and I guess more specifically these talks this weekend?
Right. So these attacks occurred just days and even hours before there was supposed to be a sixth round of negotiations between the United States and Iran on Iran's nuclear program in Oman this weekend. And so now the Iranians have stated that in the wake of these attacks that it's going to be canceling that, particularly with its lead negotiator having been killed in these attacks. And President Trump seems to be signaling that this is a way to pressure Iran to agree to more concessions on its nuclear program. But as you've stated, and along with the IAEA vote to censor Iran's nuclear program, this indicates that there may be incentives for Iran to double down on that program and to pursue or even accelerate it as a deterrent against Israel and the United States as tensions escalate in the region.
Yeah, strangely enough, the more things change, the more things tactically almost stay the same. Eric Loeb, great to speak to you about this. We'll stay close to you over the weeks ahead. Thanks so much for joining us.